We are live. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, to Monday Night Moshiach Matters. And we are on Parsha Shmini. And I want to dedicate tonight's class to Refuah Shlema, to Elka Rachel Bas Eliza, and Shalom Ben Sylvia. 1 second. All right, let's get cracking. Parsha Shmini. Aleph. Hashaba siyamu b'pam hashminis nikroi es Parsha Shmini hashana. So that particular year when Parsha Shmini was the Parsha of the week, it was read 8 times that year. It was because the Pesach, it was doubled over, excuse me, because during the Pesach Seder, you don't read the normal Parsha of the week, you read the daily reading for Pesach. So that particular year, it came out during Pesach, and it was read 8 times. And the Rebbe is going to emphasize the significance of the number 8 in this sequence. Kafisha hodgash kavar kama pa'amim b'shavuos ha'acharonos. And as we have emphasized many times, especially as of recent weeks, Shashana Kurim as Parshas Shmini, Shmona Pa'amim. And the reading of Parsha Shmini, which took place 8 times that year, Shavazah Yesh Lamayla. And there's an advantage in this. Kapaska Mayadua Shmini Shmona Shmina. And this is referring to as the idea of Shmini, Shmona, and Shmina. Shana Shakurim Bo Parsha Shmini. Shmona Pa'amim. So you read Parsha Shmini. That's the first sequence, Shmini. How many times did you read it? 8 times, referring to Shmona, which is 8. Tiyah Shmira, and it was a Shmira. Shana Shmira Meliyah Begash Misruchne. Shmina meaning fat. It's the Rebbe is going to explain it. It's a fattening, meaning that everything was in its the way the sequence of the days and the months that we fall out, they were full, referring to, it's kind of like this year, it's a pregnant year where everything is full and in its largest capacity, and that's what it means. Shmina meaning fat, like is in like abundant. And the Rebbe says, and that 4, it shows that the year was be a fat year, a we don't mean like fat year, we mean like in abundance. And there's a tremendous advantage in this in both material and spiritual matters. And the Rebbe has said many times in that year that the Tafshin Nun Aleph, which is the Hebrew year, stands for that this will be a year that Hashem will show us wonders. Shana Shemiztamanas Bezeh Shmina. And this is indicative of this idea of Shmina, of fatness, of abundance. Bamela im nisim v'niflois HaKadosh Baruch Hu shekorim le'eni kulam. And it's referring to the fullness of miracles and wonders that Hashem has shown us in general. It is revealed to our eyes. It was a year of miracles in many capacities, from the fall of communism and the huge influx of Jews to Israel, to the miraculous winning of the Gulf War. There's a lot of occurrences that took place in the year that were open and obvious miracles. And the Rebbe said these are all preparations for the tremendous miracles and wonders that Hashem is going to show us in the true and complete redemption. It should happen right now, immediately. It's beyond puzzling and frustrating that the Sikha was given 33 years ago. And we still don't have a complete redemption. It's hard to wrap our head around that, but we must carry on. Just like when I took you out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. And the Rebbe says, as we have seen before our eyes many times already this year. But Prat, B'chodesh Nisan, and specifically in the month of Nisan. Melashon Nisi, and Nisan is for miracles. It's the month of miracles. And we are entering the month of Nisan next week, April 9th. A week and a day from today will be Rosh Chodesh Nisan, a time of miracles. Nosef al kach shana shabazo higam. The Rebbe said we can add on to this miraculous state on Shabbos that Shabbos fell out on for the following reasons. Aleph. So Shabbos Harishayna After Pesach. This is the first Shabbos after Pesach. Again, because of the sequence of the timing, we are a month in time sequence different, but as I mentioned previously, we follow we follow the parshas and not the time. It's too confusing to adjust the weekly parsha based on the time of the year we're in now. So we follow the parshas, but there are references to that time of year when it happened. So when the sig was given, this was the first Shabbos after Pesach. And that, of course, brings the beginning of learning Pirkei Avos. It's almost that time that in the summer months, it's known that are accustomed to learn one chapter of Pirkei Avos every Shabbos. And the beginning Mishnah is that Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. Based Shabbos Acharayna Shel Chodesh Nisan Hashana, and it's the final Shabbos of the month of Nisan. And furthermore, it's the conclusion of the month of Nisan. Erev Rosh Chodesh Iyar Machar Chodesh. And it was at the time Erev Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Gem Hasiyim Shel Shavua Hashalim Shnei Shel Sfar Sfira Zoimer. And also, it is the completion of a full week of Sfirat Omer and the beginning of the counting of the second week of Sfirat Omer, which we know we start counting the Omer on the second night of Pesach. The Fi Mailas Hakaviyos Hashana Zu, and these are some of the advantages that took place that year. Sfiras Omer Mitchila, to beginning with the Sfiras Omer, and Macharas Shabbos Pshuta. שזה עילוי בעניין התמימוס דספירס האומר. כסו במדרש שבע שבתויס תמימוס תחיין. Mitzvahs hein tamimus. That it says you shall count 7 complete weeks of the Sfirat Omer prior to Shavuos. And in that particular, the counting happened on Motzi Shabbat. So the Rebbe said it's truly a complete 7 weeks because it starts from the first day of the week. So it's a real completion from the first day of the week to the last day of the week, these 7 complete weeks. Pesach Shabbos, these Sfiras, since Pesach fell out on Shabbos, they counted the Sfira Motzi Shabbat. And therefore there were 7 complete weeks. Because you began counting the day after Shabbat and end the counting on Shabbat. And for all of these matters, we see specifically how Shabbat comes and it's placed out connected to these things. Aleph, the reading of Parshas Shmini 8 times. Also, it's Bachar Chodesh. It's Bachar Chodesh. It's the literally benching and blessing Rosh Chodesh. B'siyum Shavua Hasheni D'Sfiras Omer, and the completion of the second week of the Sfirat Omer. And David Techilas and Miras L'Yimei Perach Yavos Tzrich Leimor, and the beginning of learning Pirkei Avos. And therefore, it's necessary to say Sheyesh B'neihem Shaychos. There's a connection to all of these matters, as the Rebbe will bring together. And furthermore, Shaychos Yimayinin the Areno Niflots. and its connection to the fact that God is now showing us wonders. And he is showing us wonders right now. I know it's hard to see because there's a lot of negativity in the world right now. But if you're on top of what's going on in Israel, and not what the news is telling you, but those who are informed with in a deeper reality, there's a lot of miracles happening in Israel right now. A lot of miracles on a daily basis. But we want to see the real miracle. We want to see the revealed miracle of Geula. But anyways, let's continue. Base. Now we're going to talk about these things. Shmini, Shmona, Shmina, as we pointed out at the beginning. The Rosh Hashanah. So first of all, the first explanation is Shmini, who Meloshin Shoimen. Shmini is from Meloshin Shoimen, which literally means fat. Parshas Torah, and is read in this parsha of the Torah. Shemona Nimshachas Hora'a Nitinas Koach All Kol Hashanah. And therefore, this fatness gives the power to and again, in fatness, we mean fatness in abundance, in fullness, in completion. And therefore it gives the power to bring that in Hebrew it's called rachava, in a wide way, like an open way, for the entire year. We can understand some of the Shabbat Parsha Shemina, Nimshach, Shemina, all Kol Shana. Therefore, the reading of Parsha Shemina literally brings forth this fatness for the entire year. The Shaila, and a question arises. And that since Shmini in of itself is connected to Shomen, connected to fatness, is a Chidush Ikar Noisef, B'zeh Aide Mispar Kriyas, Shmini Shmona Pamim. So the Rebbe said, so what is the unique thing that we read Parsha Shmini 8 times? Because in and of itself, it has the same connotation of fatness. This idea of Shmini and Shmona, the words come from the same root. So just reading Parsha Shmini this is my son's birthday parsha, is indicative of this concept of wideness, of abundance. So what do we gain by reading it 8 times? It's such a chiddush, such a unique thing, the Rebbe says. That specifically that we're doing it 8 times. What is what's the thing? So the Rebbe says there is, even though Parsha Shmini in of itself is indicative of this concept of abundance, nevertheless, there is something special about reading it 8 times, as we will find out with God's help very shortly. Gimel. So let's start explaining about this idea of fatness. First of all, we see the connection too, that this is the 8th day. Should be Yom Zeh. Because this was the beginning of the drawing down the Shekhinah into the Mishkan. Hayoyim Hashem Nira Elechem, and the day that Hashem appeared amongst you. Excuse me. The Hashira is Hashchinase V'Maser Yadechem, and it says, and the Shekhinah was established through the work of our hands. And everyone saw the divine presence amongst them. And the power for the Shekhinah to come down specifically is connected to the 8th day. There happens to be a band, a Jewish band called the 8th day. It's connected to this pasuk. And first of all, we see that matters in the world are reaching a fulfillment, a completion in the number 7. We know that God created 7 weeks of the Omer, 7 days of the week, 7 brachas after you get married, 7 circles around the chuppah. There's numerous 7 years in a Shemitah cycle. There's numerous allusions to the number 7 throughout the Torah and throughout creation, because it represents a completion within the natural order of things. Ha'olam nivra b'shvash yemei bereshis. The Rebbe said the world was created in 7 days. Shvash yemei ha'haikef and shevehem esuderim zaman ha'olam klalo sera istajlus. Kivan shebispa the 7 planets. Mispar sheva mura aha or elokim shemitlabish b'bria. And this represents the 7 seas, 7 oceans, 7 rivers. And this represents the way that God enclosed himself within the natural order of the world. Shmini mora aha ora lokai shalamaylamit labshus bo'odam. But the number 8 is indicative of a godly energy that is above from the normal channels of the world. And this is the level of connecting a level of godly energy that is above the normal chain of creation, above the nature, as we say. And therefore, on the 8th day, when the Shekhinah was revealed in the Mishkan, and furthermore, we see this according to the multiple of details of the service that are fulfilled in the 7 days that are filled. But this sequence of 7 is still revealing to a level of godly energy that is connected to God as he is within the channels of the nature. And it still has not reached a level where God's divine presence is amongst us. The revealing of God's divine presence in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, as they say in the parlance of the English language. It was specifically on the 8th day that was caused the revealing of the godly energy that is above from the creation to be drawn down. Mishkan, the day that God appeared to them. And this is also, we see a relevance to the Shmini, connected with the Shmina. Referring to a level of godly energy that is brought down, that is out of the norm, above the nature. And specifically on the 8th day, that is above Seder Hishtarsus, or the chain of creation, or the natural sequence in God, how he reveals himself in this world. Dalet. Taklis hakavanahi, and the ultimate intention is Shagam ha'or shlamara mihishtarsus, also connected to the light that is above creation. Lo yashar b'havdalam ha'olam. Not that it is something that is separated from the world, but that it is drawn down and revealed in the world. That in and of itself, it's within the boundaries of the world, if you will, but nevertheless, it's revealed in a way above the world. Zot is to say, this is a unification of 2 matters. A revelation of godly energy above the normal foundations or boundaries of the world. And in this, there's an advantage of the fact that it is an unbounded power that is above from the normal channels of the world. But Medina Hagbala that are fixed or in proper boundaries, if you will. Nase kli leze lekabel v'haklot as higli hapenimis. Nase chivora de bli gvul v'gul. And the idea is that this energy that is above from the normal receiving in the vessels of the world comes down and is revealed in the innermost dimension of the world. And therefore you have what is called a unification of bli gvul and gvul, a godly power that is, it's hard to explain this in English, like too lofty, too spiritual, too holy, too concentrated to come into the normal channels of the world. But it's brought into the normal channels of the world nevertheless, and it doesn't nullify the world. It doesn't wipe it out. In fact, it gets enclosed. This is redemption. The idea of redemption, as the Rebbe said in the famous Sikh of Koach Nisa, and in Tafshin Nunal, he said, I've done all I can to bring Mashiach. Now I'm giving it over to you. Do everything within your ability to bring about the Guru Mitzvah Shlema. And then he adds, meaning the tremendous lights that the Rebbe is talking about here that are above the normal channels of the world into the channels of the world. In other words, previously when you had such a thing, it says in the Torah that God, he created and destroyed worlds, meaning that in the Olam HaTohu, in the world of Tohu, which is above our world of Tikkun or fixing up, this tremendous high energy couldn't enter into the vessels. You had what was called Shvirat HaKelim. You had breaking of the vessels. That is what happens when there's too much light, too much energy for the vessel. But throughout our world work for thousands of years, as a nation, by revealing godly energy in the world for Torah and mitzvot, where now the Rebbe explains in Yomot HaMashiach, in the days of Mashiach. And only now, as the Rebbe said, only like recently in the last 30, 35 years, have we had the ability to bring this tremendous energy that's above the world into the channels of the world. Couldn't be done before. וזהו תוכן החידוש תגידו אלוקות במשכן ומקדש. And this is the unique thing of the revealing of the godly energy in the Mishkan and the Mikdash. כפי שנפעל ביום השמיני. And all this took place on, you guessed it, the 8th day. And then God's divine presence dwelled amongst us. And we had this revelation that was above from the channels of the world, but Mishkan Hagashmi into a physical dwelling in this world. And the work of our hands were established in building this Mishkan. And from the Mishkan it was drawn down and entered into the entire world. The Mishkan was a mini traveling base of Mikdash. And it was revealed in the Aron HaKodesh. And it's known that the Aron did not take up any measurement. It explains it's a crazy thing. The Aron HaKodesh and the Kodesh Kadoshim in the base of Mikdash. So you measured one end of the wall to the other end of the wall, and it was 20 amos. I don't remember exactly what it is. And then the Aron itself was I don't know. So let's say the wall, it was 20 amos, and the Aron itself was 10 amos, and from each side of the Aron to the other wall was 10 amos. So it didn't take up space. It was a I don't know how to use the proper term in English, but a complete contradiction of nature. It was there physically. You could touch it. It was a physical entity, but it didn't take up physical space because it was combining both of these levels. And that's how it will be when Mashiach comes, by the way. There'll be a lot of crazy things that will be going on, but we won't need phones. You won't need airplanes. Like imagine sitting here right now and be like, I'd like to check out Israel. And you close your eyes, boom, you're in Israel. You know, I want to talk to my friend in Japan. Boom, you could just talk to them without devices. It's crazy. All the technology in the world is racing very quickly to catch up to the light of godly energy that's coming into the world. And pretty soon we won't need any of these technology things because we'll be living in a complete state of miracles. And that's the kind of idea that we'll be in a physical world where we won't be bound by the rules of physicality. It's hard to wrap your head around that right now, but that's how it will be. Who the Medina Hadbal? And this is we saw that the Aron HaKodesh in the base of Mikdash was above boundaries and limitations. It didn't have any measurement to it. It was there physically, but it didn't take up any place. Oh, it's interesting, man. One of the Rebbe explains in many places, one of the best ways to prepare for Mashiach's coming is from learning Chassidus, and especially Chassidus about Mashiach and Geula. Because the idea is to become bittul. What is bittul? It's the same kind of concept. I was just thinking about that now. Bittul is you're here and you're a physical entity, but you don't take up space, meaning you're totally nullified to Hashem. You don't have an independent existence. But I am here, but I'm not here, right? You know the old vort, you ask a Misnagin, does God exist? He says, I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe I don't. Maybe he doesn't. And you ask a Chassid, do you exist? He says, I don't know. Maybe I do and maybe I don't. In other words, God for sure exists. Whether I exist independently from God is a question. That's what we said. Even though it was an entity, it didn't take up any place. And we have the advantage of something that is above nature or infinite in a finite reality. It's a pella. It's a wondrous concept. And according to what we have said, we now have to express this in the service of a Yid. And that's what's beautiful about these sikhs. They're very practical. They tells us it's very nice to dwell and delve into these nice, lofty concepts. And wow, that's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it's the tachlis. We got to bring it into action. We got to do, actual work here and now. Avoid b'tzimtzum b'medira hagbala, and the service of the working within a tzimtzum in a reality where God is concealed and hidden from us. But we have to work above the concealment, right? It's like your feet on the ground and the head in the sky. Yeah, we have to work according to the channels of nature, but at that same token, we can't let there's a concept in Hasidus referring to the energy in the upper worlds of what is called moti velo moti. I don't want to get too deep into Kabbalistic terms, right now, because we don't have the time to properly flush them out. But our general vote is called Ratzo V'Shev. That means I'm here, and my soul wants to go up, and it goes up, and I get so excited and passionate about God, and I'm davening, and I want to expire, but I know I have to do my work in this world, so it comes back into the body. But if you flip it, and you're operating where you're connected to God above, then you're entering what is called moti velo moti, meaning that your real existence is above. Your soul is connected to God above at all times. And you're entering into your physical body because you have to be here and you're working, but you're constantly going back up to Hashem. So instead of from down to up, you're going from up to down. This is the kind of idea of we have to be in the world, but we can't let the world suck us up. We can't think for a second that our money comes from anything other than God, or our success comes from anything other than God. Anything. It's very easy to get swallowed up in this world, right? It says Eretz Yisrael is a land that spits people out. In other words, if you're not grounded in your Judaism, it just spits you right out. But America is the land that swallows people up. We get swallowed up in work and money and cell phones and drugs and parties and social media and games and shopping, whatever the crap it is that swallows us up. The idea is that we have to operate in this world, but not to let the world affect you, to constantly be the one affecting the world. This is avoda. This is serious work. This does not come easy. And what is in one is not in the other. That the service of working within the world is based on how you are connected to the world. And you make a vessel to receive and reveal God in the innermost dimension of your being, right? Everything has to be brought down, because if it's not, it's like a balloon. If it's not tied, it just pops right back up, right? So, it's like everyone has ideas. Well, I've got this wonderful idea. I'm like, okay, great. What are you doing with it? Nothing. It flies back up. At the same time, we must draw down an energy into this vessel of the world, meaning our body and our homes and our work and our surroundings. But we must draw down. In other words, it's so hard to explain this in a way that makes sense, but you can't have too much light where you ever met these people? They're not present in the world. Like they're so holy that they're just floating. I don't mean literally, but I mean like, they're not grounded in the world. That's no good. But then you have people that are so like that the world has them so tightly that they're very high strung and they're nervous and they're not giving place for the godly energy to come into the world because they're too much in the world. So it's a balancing act, right? You have to bring this tremendous high energy that's above the world into the world. And that's our work, is to unify both of these concepts, these ideas, into one reality. And this is the service to work above boundaries and limitations, and the advantage of drawing down this energy into in a deep-seated inner way. And this is what we refer to as working in the advantage of Bakal Me'odecha, with all of your power, with all of your being. You can't get to this level doing fufu. You know what I mean? It's like the Rebbe is giving us tools, right? It's if someone wants to get big in the gym, right? You can't go there with a 5-pound dumbbell like this. You gotta bust your butt. If someone wants to become financially successful, same thing. You can't just kind of like, go to work and half-ass things and to get by with the minimal amount. You gotta bust ass. It's the same idea. If you want to really live in a state of redemption consciousness, if you really want to be living above the nature, this is work me'odecha, with all your might. You gotta keep pushing. It's a relentless, never-ending thing. You gotta keep hammering away. Like anything. Show me one person in the world, maybe who, I'm not talking about someone who won the lottery. I'm talking about your normal course of reality, who is successful, who's at the top of their game in money, in sports, in entertainments, in being a husband or a father, a relationship, in any field, who has not busted their ass to get there. Doesn't exist. What we see is we look at people on the top echelons of society. Oh, he got lucky, he had connection. That's all BS. Don't get me wrong, it helps, but you got to bust butt, right? What is the saying going? There's a saying that says that hard work without talent is a shame, but talent without hard work is a tragedy. Okay, hey. So yeah, that's the idea. We're spitting words over here. Yeah, above the nature, in the nature, but this is real serious work. And the blessings are there, and the potential for success is there. But you got to put in your effort, right? You get out what you put in. Now we're going to talk about these Shmini, Shmona, Shmonis. Excuse me. The difference between Shmini and Shmona is Shmini hu mispar siduri. Shmini is a number that is in a numerical sequence. Sheva amnan la'achar sheva shekadmai. That 7 precedes 8. Avozelhi metzios shminis nifradas. But shminis, it's going to get a little technical here. Shmona is a number when you're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 because it comes after 7, and 7 precedes 8. But that's Shmona. But Shmini is a number in and of itself. It is separated from the ones that came before. In other words, it's number 8 because it's number 8, not because it is subsequent to number 7. Right? There's the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then there's just 8. It's a distinction, and you'll see. Shmini eino the gamre enyan latzmai. Ela yesh lo shayches the sheva. Avol the achar sheva bigudui hu enyan hashmini. Hazeh mitzios nifarash nivdalas hashmini. So it's the 8 again. It's the 8th, and then it's 8 in and of itself. Shmona hu mispar haklal is a general number. Hu klal es kol hasheva yichdav. It includes all the 7 that precedes it. Gam sheva'ah shekadmo lezer, including the 7 that came before it. Shmona Pirushe Sheyesh Lanu Es Kol Shmona Yechad. The Shmona explains, and there is to us, all 8 things combined together. In other words, it's inclusive of everything else. Adrabah, Yom Zeh Ma'ala as Kulam. Shmona, Shekar Yanim, Haim Chelek Shmona. And this is the advantage that includes everything in Shmona. And that all of these matters, they are part of Shmona. So Shmona is like this inclusive, all-encompassing thing that it encompasses everything that's inside, 1 through 7. And according to this, we could say that Shmini, V'Shmona, V'Yechad, that Shmini and Shmona combine together. That's what we're learning about now. That this is all these things, Shmini, Shmona, Shmona. Ramzim gam al koach chavar eshnei nim hana b'giloi l'kus hamishkan bli gvul v'gul. And this, the Rebbe explains that these 2 things, Shmini v'Shmona, combined, are hinting on the power to unify the 2 matters we said above, which is the revelation of God in the Mishkan, which is bli gvul, above the nature, v'gvul, in the nature. And this is in order to unify and combine above the nature, or no limitations or boundaries, within the nature of limitations and boundaries. And therefore it's necessary to be bli gvul, v'gvul. This in and of itself is 2 matters, bli gvul. And this is the difference between Shmini and Shmona. Shmini hu ha'inin bli gvul. That Shmini is the matter of bli gvul, no boundaries. Shmona hi kafi sheba'al bli gvul, klal ba'atzmai, as gvul. Shmona is this idea of bli gvul in general, but in and of itself, in gvul. In boundaries. I know it sounds like a who's on first routine, but bear with us here. Shmini kai be'ikar. The Shmini is referring in general to a revelation of godly energy above Histalshalus, which is referred to as we said above, this high energy or light. But Shmona is indicative of how this level of godly energy that is above chain of creation, Shmini, is revealed and includes all the other 7 days of building the Mishkan, which are in the chain of creation. Bakal, Prat, Bakrat, including all of its details together. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, V'achar HaChes. Kafi Shekulam Misalim V'nasim Shmona. And all of these included is Shmona. So it's the idea that Shmini is above. It's the number 8 above chain of creation. Shmona is connected to encompassing all the other parts of creation, the 1 through 7, and drawing down the Shmini that's above creation into creation and unifying them both together. If that doesn't make sense, I understand. But we'll continue. Shmini. And that is what's unique about that particular year. The Parsha Shmini was read 8 times. Nimsa bo'efen Shmona, and it comes out from the Shmona, Shkrim es Shmini, that is read Shmini, Shmona pa'amim, 8 times. Kasher shekorim es Parsha Shmini, rak pa'amachah. And when we read Parsha Shmini just one time in and of itself, kayotze bezeh, hazem Rashi ikra. It's referring to the level of 8 in Rabbit said, above the world, above the nature. But when it's read 8 times, in other words, we said earlier, the Rebbe asked the question, what is the unique thing? Parsha Shmini in and of itself, without being read 8 times, is still fat. It's still showing on abundance. The Rebbe said it's true that Shmini in and of itself is showing on this fatness, this abundance. of a level of godly energy that is above the normal chain of creation. But when it's read 8 times, it's connected to bringing that level of godly energy that's normally above the world into the world and drawing it down. And that's what Moshiach is about. It's about, because otherwise that godly energy is just too lofty. It kind of floats. It can't come into the world. פעם אחת, פעם שני, פעם שלישי, עד פעם שמיני, ושמונה כלל את כולם, and then it includes everything together. הרי אז בו בגילוי שמיני, and then shmini is revealed, גם בכל אחד מאחד מהם, ובכלל, including every one of them in general together. שבע פרטים בהבריאה. האחר פתחתי את השלימוס בפעם השמיניס. That's 7 as connected to the completion in the nature. And then afterwards, we have the ultimate completion, because the 8th time is not just above the nature, but it's above the nature as it's brought down into the nature. באופן שישנה השלימוס דשמיני, 8 פעמים המעלה לשמיני, וכל אחד ואחד עם המעלה בשמונה, וכלל גם את 7. And therefore, it's bringing out the advantage of 7. So just something that pops in my head to just kind of give a more simple explanation to this is, it says in Yomot Mashiach, it says in the days of Mashiach, that all the holidays will be nullified except Purim. What does it mean? It means that the light of redemption will be so powerful that you won't feel it, because you won't feel the holidays, because they'll be absorbed, if you will, into this tremendous light of redemption. It says, but the holiday of Purim will still stand. Why? What made Purim unique amongst all the other holidays is that God is concealed in Megillat Esther. Right? That's Esther is from Hester, which means concealment. Megillah is from Gilui, means to reveal. The whole idea of Megillat Esther is to reveal the concealed. In other words, everything that was done in the channels of nature. There was no miracles. It wasn't like, Hanukkah, where the drop of oil lasted 8 days, or other times when their enemies were God splitting of the sea and Pesach. What you had was a victory from the Jewish people that was within the channels of nature. God was totally concealed throughout the Purim miracle. In fact, the book of Esther, Megillat Esther, is the only sefer in the 24 books of Tanakh that does not explicitly mention God's name. It's hinted to in Kabbalistic terms, in kind of in concealed ways, but openly there's no mention of God in Megillat Esther. And that is why that miracle is higher. And that's what the Rebbe is explaining now, because it would seem that a miracle above the nature is higher than a miracle in the nature, but it's not true. Because ultimately, God does not enjoy breaking the nature. He wants us to be victorious within the nature. He wants to prove to the Klippa and the nations of the world that we are successful while working within the nature that he created. And that's why a miracle that is above the nature and clothed in the nature is higher than a miracle that is above the nature in and of itself. And that's the whole idea of Shmini Shmona, 8 times. And that's what the Rebbe says now, that the true completion of this fatness, of this abundance, is when Shmini, above the nature, is revealed within Shmona, within the nature, which is still above the nature, Shmona. But it's above the nature in the nature. So I know it sounds confusing. Shmini bo'efen shmona bli gvul b'gvul. Shmini in a way of shmona, which is above boundaries and limitations within the actual physical limited world. Shemara al kach shezeh bo ma'ha'etzem shezehu inyan hashayim timtzi'is l'kol ninim shechoyder b'kol prati. And there it says, and now, and that this is indicative of all of this that is coming into the essence. And this is the matter of shoyman, or fat, that comes out from this, that this is penetrating in all the details of creation, penetrating to the deepest depths while it's above the nature. So in addition to this, Ha'ofen shebo megi'im bo'oim legilui shmini. So the Mala Hadbala Olam, which is above boundaries or limitations. Udaf Gaide Havora Milamata Lamayla. Mabedina Hadbala Ha'olam. It's specifically through the service of from above, is brought down specifically through the service from below to above in the boundaries and limitations of the world, meaning that it's our work. It's a miraculous thing. But look at it this way: when we exhaust all of our capabilities within the nature, God brings us miracles above the nature. If we're afraid to push the envelope, if we work just kind of in a ordinary way, that's not what a chassid is. But what is a chassid? It means someone who's pious. What does that mean? It's pious. It means we don't look for doing the minimal amount. We push ourselves. God says, "Oh, it's not necessary. Here's the basic." We don't want the basic. We want more than that. Right? It's the same thing in everything you do. The objective of connecting to God has to be in such a way that you're full power, right? That you're all in. Doesn't mean overnight, doesn't mean you're tzaddik, but it means that you have a goal. And this is the goal, to totally dedicate yourself to the one above. And then he can totally dedicate himself to you. The only way to reach shlimut, to reach completion in your life, is to bring God into it and make the God the focal point of your life. Not because I said so, because it's the very basic foundation of Judaism. And that's the idea. When we exhaust ourselves within all the channels of nature, God brings us miracles above the nature. But if we get to, let's say, number 7 is the capacity within nature. If we like to hang out at 4 or 5, which is like, I'm good over here, you'll never get to 7. You'll never get to 8. That godly blessing above the nature only comes into play when we exhaust full capabilities within the nature. And that's the idea that Rebbe says, that it's specifically a service from below to above. That it's our work. To have God's miracle is dependent on you. It's not dependent on God. God said, "I'm ready to bring you the miracles, but you got to make it happen." Shavah Dargos, and these are the 7 levels we must traverse through. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ad Shemegim Leshmona, and then we reach number 8. You can't hop. You can't It's like the people. It's like so where do you want to be financially? Oh, I want to be a multimillionaire. What are you doing? Playing the lottery. Okay. Good luck. That's how you're going to become a multimillionaire, by playing the lottery and hope that you're going to win the lottery. You and how many other people in the world? How many people that happens to? That's not working within the nature. That's starting at 1 and hoping number 8 is going to come. That's not how we operate. That's not how you find success. You got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, and then comes the 8. Hatam lezeh kivan shadaf gayre avora b'midah hadbala nasim kli liklot bigli na'alim yoser. That's what I just said. And the reason for this is specifically that when we work within the boundaries and channels of nature, then we make a vessel to reveal a godly energy above the nature. And this is the number 8 within 8. And from this we can understand that the service within boundaries and limitations that are connected to a level that's above boundaries and limitations, right? It happens in business. It happens in every capacity, right? It's like when we fundraising. How I call it fundraising. During the fundraising campaign, you're busting your butt, and you're working on specific, people that are, promise you things that you think you're gonna give you a big donation, and you put so much effort and time and energy, and you don't stop, and it's going away, and nothing comes. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, someone gives you a big donation that you weren't anticipating. How does it happen? Because it's from God. Because when you exhaust all your power and energy, it doesn't mean you're getting the blessing through that thing. But now God says, oh, now you're a vessel to get the blessing from another place. In other words, the blessing comes from God. Which direction it comes from, who knows? We see the same thing in business. It's like you're working, nothing's right. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom, something opens up in a different place. The same idea. Ba'al derek makoim aharoin min hamida. And according to this, we see how the Aron HaKodesh did not take up any measurements. Even though it was a physical thing, לא יעשה קדושת הארועים בשלמות, שהיה כאשר ציווה השם משה. דוגמה לדבר בקיום המצוות. במצוות מעשר, הדין במעשר הוא אין מעשרים בעומד, אלא במידה או במשקל או במניין. יסוד הזה במעשר החמה, שחלק מגוף פועלס המצוות היא המניין. מניין א' ב' ג' ד' ה' ו' ז' ח' ט' שיוצא 20 אומר הרי זה 10. זאת אומרת, הגילוי העשירי יהיה קודש. So we're now the completion. The same idea when we're going to the number 10, which is the completion and holiness. Kodesh ma'ala begamra, the completion. So the Rebbe is explaining, how do you get to this 10? How do you count to this number of this minyan, this 10? From 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You can't skip. You got to go through the order. Shu b'hagbala, v'shelo be'erech l'chol, ha'inyanim, מגיעים דווקא אל מניין האדם, מניין א' בייס כמו בסדר. יש לומר שעל דרך זה הוא גם בנויגו ויהי ביום השמיני. And we see this as connected to the 8th day, the same idea of counting to get to the completion. שגילוי דשמיני בו לאחרי שבעה ימי המילואים. That the revelation of 8 only comes after you've completed all 7. Sorry, let's go to the time check here. And the Rebbe said this is emphasized especially in this year. And Parsha Shmini is read 8 times. According to Parsha Shmini Shmona Pa'amim. פעם אחד, פעם בשמונה פעמים, שעה שישנה בפועל בגילוי שמיני שמונה. באופן שישנה מיילה לקריאת פרשת שמיני בכל השמונה פעמים. בפרטיוס פעם הראשון, המיילה דפתיחס, המתחילס, העניין לקריאת. והיא ביום השמיני בשנה זו. פעם השני, המיילה כפלים דתוש. פעם השלישי, מיילה החזק. The Rebbe is saying, every counting has a different advantage. The advantage of the first counting, the second kind of count. Pam and Revi'i is going through each number. Connected dal regle kisei shlamaram hashochan, the 4 legs of the chair. The dal regle hamarchava of the chariot. Chayzen nasi kiyum chazak b'medina hashochan pam chamishi. Connected b'chinas chamishis, the paroi, the 5th level of the tremendous highlights. As far as gami minei kol nehorim pam shishi. Shlemus Abriya, Pam Shvi'i, Maila Shlemus Menucha. 6 is a completion in the nature before Shabbos. 7 brings in the completion of the nature, including Shabbos. The Shlemus Pa'amim Shmini until we get to Shmini, Shlemal B'Seri Histarshus Kanal Baruch, which is a completion in a miraculous way, as we said above. The Rebbe again is just emphasizing this point that God is prepared and willing and ready to send us miracles. As a nation, as individuals in our lives, to literally see miracles. But you can't sit back on your couch with a soda pop and wait for them to come out of the sky. You got to put in your time. You got to go to level 1, 2, and keep going until you get to 7. And you don't stop. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Boom, until it breaks open. And then you get the brachas above the nature. Lo Haisif, in addition to this, Shmini Klal Gam Tishi'i Ve'esri. Shmini also includes 9 and 10. Lochein Mishmini Boim Miyad La'achri Tishi, because after 8 immediately comes 9. Which is 3 Gimel Pamim Hazaka, 3 times a Hazaka. 3 is a Hazaka or a perfection of a number. And then after that, we go right into 10. And this is connected to a completion of holiness, as we said above. Okay, Zion. Sorry about an itchy mustache here. הכוח להמשיך את השכינה למטה ביום השמיני בו דווקא על ידי משה רבינו. And now the Rebbe says, and the power to draw down this Shekhinah, divine presence, on the 8th day comes specifically through Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, if you're paying attention, we're now on the third Sikha of the new sequence of Nun Aleph Nun Beis, right? We started with Vayikra, and then we went to Tzav, and now we're in Shmini. These were the opening sequences of the Rebbe's teachings for Nun Aleph Nun Beis. And in these opening sequences, in every Sikha, 3 times, which is the Chazaka, 3 Sikhas in a row, the Rebbe has emphasized that the power that we have to bring about redemption, to live in a miraculous way, specifically comes from Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the generation. Again, the Rebbe is alluding to himself and to his new role, where he upped his status, if you will, from Nasi Hador to Melech HaMashiach. He was always the Mashiach of the door. It's known that the leader of the generation is the Mashiach of the generation. But he is now upped his game, or God has upped the game for him, to now he's Mashiach. Not just of the generation, but that's it. Now it's not the time to go into it, but if you learn Basi Lagani, the first mind of the Rebbe, he opens up that whole entire idea. And the Rebbe is once again emphasizing this idea, the importance of connecting to him, who happens to be number 7 in the 7th line of Rebbe's. And there is no 8, because 7 is the completion with the nature. So how do we get to 8? That is our power with the Rebbe's power. 1, which is us, with 7, which is the Rebbe, is 8. And how do we do that? Exactly as the Rebbe is instructing us to do. By fulfilling his wishes, by doing what it is that he's asking of us. That is how we can reach a level of redemptive status, of miraculous status in our lives. Now, it doesn't mean that well, I'm following what he said and nothing has changed. I don't understand. You have to, again, bust butt within these parameters. But he's giving us the parameters. And he specifically says now that the power to do this is through Moshe Rabbeinu. As we said earlier, and this is the prayer of Moshe, of establishing the work of our hands. By the way, don't ever estimate the power of tefillah, of prayer. It's a strange concept that we have here in Lubavitch. When I tell Lubavitchers that I go to the beach and I go out on the ocean and I pray to Hashem and sometimes I cry and open up my heart, and they say, "Oh, what are you, Breslov?" Just because we're Lubavitchers and we have a Rebbe, doesn't mean we're not supposed to pray. I'm not talking about prayer 3 times a day. I'm talking about from your heart to Hashem. And if your heart is blocked, pray to Hashem to open your heart. There was a time I couldn't pray to Hashem. I'm not talking a long time ago. I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to, nothing's coming out. Everything's blocked. And someone told me, pray to Hashem to open your heart. I was like, you can do that? I said, of course, why not? And I started praying to Hashem to open my heart. And I mean, that's the power that the energy is inside your heart. This is your power. This is my Odeka. This is all your might. So you gotta pray to Hashem. You gotta ask Hashem for help. Ask the Rebbe for help. Not pray to the Rebbe, but ask the Rebbe for help. In other words, it's not enough. We shouldn't. The ego is a very tricky entity. We could say, well, I'm doing what the Rebbe is saying to do. Nothing's happening in my life. Nothing's different. Whatever. God doesn't want. No, that's a very egotistical thing to say. Say, it's not working, so what else do I have to do? What's missing here? Hashem, help me. The more prayer from your heart is like Amunah. It's like going to the gym, the Havdil. The more you exercise a muscle, the stronger it gets. the more you exercise your amunah and bitachon in Hashem, the stronger it gets. And the more you pray and ask Hashem for divine assistance. Again, I'm not talking about the prayers 3 times a day that we all must do. I'm talking over and above that. As a son or a daughter to our Father in heaven. The more you do it, the stronger it gets. And you see miracle. This is a Jew, Yehudi. Hoda'ah, to praise and bless. And don't just pray for things that you need. Every prayer should start off with gratitude. Before I pray to Hashem for anything, I spend however much I spend, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, thanking him for everything in my life. For air, for seeing, for talking, for my systems working, for my family, all the brachos. Every good thing in my life, ask Hashem for. Express gratitude. And then pray. Pray for the help that you need. And that's what the Rebbe is saying also, that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who prayed to Hashem to establish the work of his hand. He's Moshe Rabbeinu. What did he need to pray to Hashem for? He's the leader of the generation. Hashem needs him to pray, but doesn't he do whatever he asks? He dafka prayed too. Because Moshe, and the Rebbe again mentions this again in the last 2 weeks, is the ultimate epitome of bli gvul and gvul, ish elokim, a godly man, who mamutza mechubar ben Hashem ha'benech. He's the go-between and connector between Hashem and all the rest of us. And he has the ability to draw down this godly energy above the world into the world. That's where we get the power to do such a thing. That's where we get the power to live in a miraculous state by connecting to the redemption of Melech HaMashiach. And we see this emphasized in the beginning of Pirkei Avos. Moshe gave Torah Sinai and L'Sarar Yeshua. That Moshe received the Torah from Sinai and he passed it on to Yeshua. Excuse me. Moshe who makabel a Torah Makadosh Baruch Hu Atzmai. That Moshe received the Torah from Hashem himself. And through him he brought the Torah to all the Jewish people. And through the Torah, which is the wisdom and will of Hashem, that the Torah and Hashem are truly one. That Aaron made the covenant with Hashem. Na'asis Hasharas Hashchina. And this caused the Shekhinah to dwell down here below. But Mishkan and the Mishkan, Ha'ideh Torah Yish B'koich Hasha Yehudi and the Hemshach Adokus Va'olam Adam Elokush L'Mara B'Riya. And this gives the power for a Yid to draw down godliness into the world that is from above the world. B'koich Hasha Moshe L'chach Bo Mezeh Moshe Kibal Torah Misainai. And this power specifically comes from Moshe, from receiving the Torah Har Sinai. Kivan Shisinei Hu Mikach V'Kol Tiriya. When Moshe gave out Torah Misainai, Hu made Misainai Shaya Betaklis a bit, and that's because he reached the ultimate state of self-nullification. Okay, V'Kol Tiriya V'Kol Makoim Shaya Inin Kalashu the Gvois the Kedush Hayahu Machechach Nezek Inin. Inav ma'oil v'kol me'adam asher al pnei ha'adama v'yoyse bato b'takas ha'kodesh baruch hu b'koach ha'liyos kibel Torah Misainai v'kabel ha'mitis v'naser b'mutzah v'chubar l'mesoras v'resesh ha'kodesh baruch hu b'nei Yisrael. Through his ultimate humility and totally nullifying himself to Hashem, Moshe was able to act as a conduit, a go-between, to bring the Torah down from God into the physical world to the Yidden. Ches. But Pratis Yosef, more specifically, Yesh Moshe Enin Zeh Muru Mazgam Bishmo Shal Moshe. We see this hinted in Moshe's name. Moshe Rosh Tevis, Moshe Shmi Halal, connected Gimel Kevim. This is connected to the Masa Shmi Halal, connected to the 3 lines. Kava Yamin, which is Chesed, the right side. Kava small, Gevor, which is the left side. The Kava Emsui, and the middle path, which is Tiferet. Shmayim Halal Gam Keneged Beis Kavim, the small Yamin Shabbat Torah. This also represents the 2 lines of the Torah, right and left. שלכן הרי בייס שמי חמירה ובייס הלל מקרא. And that's what it says, that Moshe's Rosh Hashanah says from Moshe, Shammai, Hallel. Sorry. So you Shammai and Hallel, which are the two opposite rights and left, and Moshe is the middle column. Elo is Surim, but Elo Mesirin, one is strict, one is lenient. Like it is known that Moshe is the middle column. He's connected to the Torah. Torah is the middle. It governs between both sides. And the source of Bli Gvul and Gvul, which is from above, into Chesed and Gevurah. Wow, I don't know what's going on. It's just like crazy here. And from Chesed it draws down influences from above, boundaries and limitations. Into the boundaries and and Gevurah is a concealment of the contraction. In order to make a proper vessel to receive. And the way to unify both of these opposite lines, this is specifically through Moshe, which is the middle column. And this is what we said in last week's Sikha, that Moshe was referring also to the Rosh Hashanah, that Hashem drew him from the water. יש בו גם המעלה מן המים. גילוי המינים הנעלמים שבמים, גילוי כוח ההלם וכוח הגבול, הקדוש ברוך הוא שנמצא בגבורה, עד בכדי שישנח וישב לישראל. הלם ועצמי של המעלה. כיוון שמים מכניסים, this is the water above which conceals and hides over godly energy, draw down into the physical world, and combining again these two energies of above the world into the world. And therefore we say Asharash of Moshe, the source of Moshe, who mean Hamayim, which is drawn from the water. And this is explained that it is above boundaries and limitations. The level of without boundaries and limitations. That since Moshe represents the ultimate in self-effacement and humility, therefore he has the advantage of both lines, and the ability to unify both of these opposite energies. Because the only way that I was giving is so many little nuggets here, if you will. So how do you do this? How do you combine? How do you reach this level we're talking about? The Shmini Shmona. That you're living in a miraculous state in a physical world. The Rebbe said a couple of things he hinted at. One, you have to be connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, to the Rebbe. And two, you have to be bittul. Because the only way to be connected to Melech HaMashiach in a real way is by totally being nullified. That means nullified to his will. Keep in mind, it's just not so simple, right? Because Hashem provides us with what we call as a klalit. We're Yidden, toward Tefillah, Umot Chasidim, toward prayer and good deeds. But Melech HaMashiach gives us our prati. He gives us our detailed mission in this world, right? Every little detail in our world, he measures out for us. And we have to be bittul to all those details. Kabbalah Sol B'Prat is a lot harder than Kabbalah Sol B'Klal. But that's the only way. Because how do you combine both of these opposite energies, the Rebbe says? In order to reach where the Shekhinah is revealed below, Shmini Shmona Shmina, is by total nullification. Because otherwise, if you're not bittul, then you can be pulled to the right or to the left, up or down, forwards or backwards. You're constantly being pulled, right, in all these directions. That's what the 6 days of the week are. It's the 6 directions of the physical universe. Chesed through Yisod. It's north, south, east, west, and up and down. And these are energies that are pulling us all the time. So Shabbos, which is Bittul, which is Malchus, helps us get to Menucha. But the idea that I was saying is we could get to that Menucha, we could get to that calmness and that peace all the time. It doesn't have to be just Shabbos. That's why it says Mashiach will be Shabbos eternal, because we'll be Bittul. We'll be self-nullified. We'll have ultimate humility, and therefore we'll be able to stay channeled and connected despite all these energy sources that are seemingly opposites. And Moshe draws down this power to every Jew. And every single Jew has a level of Moshe inside of us, and therefore we're all capable of reaching these levels. And it was Moshe's prayer that he said, you should establish the work of our hands, meaning that God, you should dwell in the physical world, in the Mishkan we built for you. And we have the advantage in our generation that we drew down all the energy and power from all the previous generations. And Moshe draws down the power to every single one of us to receive the Torah. That the Jewish people and the Torah literally are one. The Torah is how we connect to it. It's the path to connect us as finite beings to an infinite God. And the Torah of Mashiach, which we're learning the foretaste of right now, is the path to connect to Melech HaMashiach. And just like Moshe gave us the Torah, Melech HaMashiach is going to give us a Torah Chadash Mitzi Tetzi, the new Torah, the Torah of Gehut. And that's why the sikhs are just so important to learn. I'm not going to keep preaching on this idea, but it's the key. And then our master will no longer be concealed from our sight. And then we will reach the true advantage of above the nature, within the nature. We're going to skip Tes and Yud. Again, I say this every time, and there's no such thing as a not important part of the Sikha, but I do my best to keep our classes at a maximum of 2 hours, and ideally under if possible. And there are certain Sikhas that are a couple letters that are, I say this treading lightly, outside the general scope of the rest of the Sikha, and therefore I opt to kind of leave those out. Feel free to learn my own. Okay, Yud Aleph. I'll move on. The Kohanim name Elu, and according to what we said above, we can now see a relevance and connection to all these matters. Together with the true and complete redemption. And it's necessary that this immediately should have already happened. But the year that I will show you wonders, especially now that we're in the end of the month of Nisan. We're a month before, we're the end of the month of Adar Sheni. Nevertheless, we still find ourselves in the concealment of the exile. We're still not in our proper place. What is that? The table of our Father. The Eretz HaKodesh, Yerushalayim Eretz Kodesh, in the holy city in the Beis Hamikdash. And that is specific where we must find ourselves. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mistam tsar legamri b'schiras b'nei Yisrael. V'kol pegadati etchem. And it says Hashem must immediately redeem the Jewish people. and bring forth the true and complete redemption for a righteous redeemer. You're telling me, why are we still in the galus? I can't understand for my life. And specifically through the concealment of the moon, it will give birth to a new moon. And it says in the future to come that God will renew the moon like in previous times, like the sun. And namely and mainly. Through our deeds and our work in the times of the exile. This is what brings the redemption. Even as we find ourselves in the concealment of the exile. And we find ourselves within the constrictions and that's what I'm looking for, the constrictions and the limitations of the world we find ourselves now. Specifically now, we have the ability to bring the redemption. All that fulfill the Torah when they are in poverty will fulfill it with riches, referring to the fact that when we're doing what we need to do in the time of the Galus, and the time that we're working now on the Galus, and that specifically we will have the fulfillments and riches of the redemption. It says, and through the service of a poor person in the exile. The Rebbe quotes this pasuk many times, which is in the Darim, which basically says that poverty or to be a poor person in the terms of the Torah means a lacking of knowledge. That's how you measure wealth from dat, from your knowledge of God. And by receiving this, we will have true richness. And how are we going to have true richness? In das, in knowledge. And this is the ultimate richness that will take place in the true and complete redemption. And specifically after all the time that we've worked as poor people, so to speak, with a lack of knowledge of God, and specifically at the time that we find ourselves in the under the rulership of the nations of the world. Nevertheless, we're able, especially now in our times, to learn Torah and fulfill our mitzvahs in an open way, in a peaceful way, in a peaceful soul and a peaceful body. It's never been before. It's just the ultimate mind job. In previous times, we gave our lives to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. And now we have everything we want. People don't want to do it. They want to waste their time with other nonsense. And the reason is that in the true redemption, we're going to have the advantage of both of these advantages. The advantage of the redemption and the advantage of the exile. The advantage of the service of Iskafia, which is pushing away the boundaries or limitations. He wanted the milas of Bligvul, and we'll have the advantage of the Bligvul, which is the amala of in the concealment. In a miraculous way and a natural way. Yud base. And everything we said above is a teaching that is connected to the service of the Yidden. And that we are at the time that we are at the completion of our work. And all that is left is to bring the true and complete redemption. Yehudi Yochol Hare L'K'Ta'on. כיוון שהוא מדוד ומוגבל. כלום מצד הגבלת הטעם האודם. מדוד הגבל. And therefore we see that we're able, since we find ourselves in a state of the world where the natural course of the world is showing us that there's boundaries or limitations of our capabilities. The importance that we must dwell and work hard in matters that are permissible, like eating and drinking. We have to still be careful, right? You see so many times, you see that it's sad and it's unfortunate in our own circles, amongst Jews, amongst Hasidim, malachas kama v'kama, that they become glutton, like, it's kosher. Great, it's nice that it's kosher, but you don't have to stuff yourself till you can't breathe. The Rambam says that the number one cause of all sicknesses is overeating. It's a peda. The number one cause of all health problems and sicknesses is overeating. So the Rambam says you're supposed to only eat till your belly is 2/3 full. You're not supposed to eat to capacity. You walk away, your belly's bursting, gotta open the button of your pants. It's kosher. B'prat b'zman hagalus kishnam kama medina hagbalas almost all avodas Hashem b'shleimus. And specifically, we find ourselves in the time of the exile, that there are many boundaries and limitations, and therefore our service of Hashem still cannot be in a total way of completion. And this is not to him seemingly even the power to do a service a little bit more. The Rebbe is saying, what do you? And for those who say, "What do you want from us? I'm already doing so much. It's so hard. I can't do anymore. I can't." And you want me to bring the redemption now? It's too much. What do you want from me? The Rebbe says, you say to him, "Should we ask the Moshiach that Mashiach will come and is dependent upon our deeds and our service during the times of the exile specifically. Now, and that since the full and final redemption still has not reached us, therefore, we see specifically that it is dependent upon the deeds and our service of our generation, because it's still not here. So we are still waiting for our work. And even more so. That specifically, the Rebbe says, that our service now, when it's the ultimate state of darkness, when God is in a total state of concealment, and the world is, Doug's been learning these secrets with me now, I don't remember, 6-7 years. I've been learning them for 14 years. Never, ever have you seen how clearly the world is in a total state of darkness. It hasn't been this bad. It keeps getting darker and darker and darker. It's very easy to lose hope. It's very easy to just be like, just put your hand under a rock somewhere and leave me alone. The Rebbe says no. That specifically now, when we're in a state of doubled over darkness, when there's the ultimate concealment, dafka bezeh tamonim b'koiches niflaim. Specifically in this is where we have the tremendous amount of powers that are wondrous. Powers to bring the redemption, right? Right now, when it's in the darkest state, is when we've got to get cracking the most. Pesachtin harambam, as the Rambam states. That the Rebbe says that every single Jew must look at the world as it's in a total state of balance, and one good deed could tip the scales and bring redemption. And since that Hashem has created me only to serve my master, Hashem in above, Call Yehudi Anashim Nashim V'Tav. This applies to every Yid, men, women, and children. Eini Mavakesh. Ela Lefi Kachem. That every single Jew has the power to serve Hashem and dedicate our entire existence to serving Hashem and bringing the redemption. The and in order to bring this in a state of completion, don't think that only this applies to other people, but rather applies to you. The full shiura delay that you have to be Hashem's partner in this work. That don't think that you're just God's partner in general things, but every detail of your life you must be a dedicated partner of Hashem. And this must, every single Jew must add on. Because every single one of us is literally a part of God. That we are the nation that are part of Hashem. And every one of us has tremendous powers, even more than we could imagine. And because Hashem is holy, then I too must make myself holy. Yud Gimel. Noisef al klalos koach hanal sheyesh l'kol echad metoisef b'kol hanal yoser koach mitzad klalos hashana shana arenu niflois. How much more so does this matter apply in adding on to our work and our deeds to bring the redemption? In the year I will show you wonders. Kivanisha arenu, that I will show you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, excuse me. Pa'atzmu marat, he himself will show us these wonders. Niflois yekal mizgala, and they will all be revealed. Excuse me. Hein niflois ka pshuti, hein in hagas nisis, and everything in a simple way will be and become customary miracles. Nisim geloim nifloim, wonders that will be revealed upon miracles. Hein nifloishim nimtzeim bahan hagas hatevis, even wonders in the normal channels of the world. Kol koachapod b'nifal, kafir godabum hayo kol nivra ma'ayin leyesh. And all of this is from the power to bring about, that Hashem brings about creation from nothing to something. Every single moment God brings about the world brand new. So don't sit and convince yourself that you're no good, or you're lazy, or you're this person, or you're your mother, or your father, or you can't, and you tried before, it didn't work. None of that means anything, because you didn't exist a second ago. You're a brand new entity. These are all machinations of the Yetzer Hara. I added that in. The Rebbe didn't say. And in a wondrous way, because only Hashem has the ability to bring about creation from absolutely nothing. How much more so we see these wonders even in the times of the exile and the darkness of the exile. And even now the Rebbe says we could already see these wonders and miracles that Hashem is bringing forth. In the year I will show you wonders. Specifically in the month of Adar. And even more we saw in the month of Nisan. Which is from the word of miracles. And will continue into the month of Iyar. And we're standing at the threshold at the end of the month of Nisan. And we're entering into the month of Adar. After we finish the month of Adar. And we're very close to the month of Iyar. And the miracles we see on the month of Adar that are enclosed in the nature, referring to like in Purim. Bria, Mazal, And the Mazal is strong in the month of Adar. And Chodesh Nisan, this is connected to revealed miracles above the nature. And we see this as it enters into the month of Iyar, which is a Rosh Tevis of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Rach, Dal Reglei HaMarchava, the four legs of the chariot. Rosh Tevis Ani Hashem Rufecha, and also from the Rosh Tevis I am Hashem, your healer. Shahabracha Nimshachas B'Teva Ha'olim. And this blessing of healing will be brought down into the world, of the natural world. But it will be brought down in a miraculous way, above the nature, into the nature, because God is not bound by any type of nature. And God will bring a healing to anything that is lacking. But Pater Shabbos, and specifically what we see in this Shabbos, and we're reading it, and we're on the sphere of Malchus Shebegavor, in the counting of the sphere, Gilui Malchus Shichai B'Terach HaGavor, Agalos B'Shavas Parsha Shmini, and Parsha Shmini, Shabbat Nifloi Shleimus, Shmini Shmona Shmona, and the completion of 8, as we said earlier. This is connected specifically with Mashiach Tzidkenu, Kenor Shel Yemotza Mashiach, as it is will be in the days of Mashiach, which will be the revealed number of 8, which is above the nature. And then furthermore, we will have completion in number 9 and number 10. And we said that number 10, of course, is a completion within the nature. And this is emphasized even more in the beginning of the month of Iyar, the base Iyar, and the second day of Iyar. And the Yom Haledes, the birthday, the Rabbi Maharash. And this gives us the power of Techila Ariba, to go above, as a famous saying with the Rebbe Marash. Shudor Hashishi Hazaka Kufayla. And he's the 6th generation from the Baal Shem Tov. And then we go to the 7th, and then the 8th. Into our generation, which is the 9th, counted from the Baal Shem Tov. And then we see this is the completion of the number 3 times 3. Yud Dalet. We pashtus the mush, and all of this is every single one of us can add on, because we have the power of the influence of Moshe Rabbeinu, and in our generation, it's the leader of our generation, referring to the Frierdiker, referring to the Rebbe himself. And and we're in the home of the leader of the generation. From here, all the prayers spread out across the world. And the base of Midrash will be a house of prayers for all nations. וגם מגיע ארץ ישראל, וגם בלי הגבולות. וזהו מגילויים שלמען מדין הגבולות, we will all go to the land of Israel, where we will truly live in a state that is above boundaries or limitations. Tezvav, but pashtus, and in the most simple way, call Yehudi, every Jew, anashim nashim v'taf, men, women, and kids. Yesh lo achiras lachoises v'avodas alavias es Mashiach tzidkenu v'fal mamash. We must add on and increase in our service to bring about the true and complete redemption in actuality. Let's move on from this, we can understand. And this applies that we can't say, let him do it, every single one of us. And every single Jew must look at ourselves and say, I was only created to serve my master. That's why I'm here. That's my purpose. And for sure, Hashem gives us the power to do so. We must increase in learning Torah, the revealed Torah and the concealed Torah, and we must do our mitzvahs in the most perfect way. And and as we're finding in the final times we're in. And we're learning Pirkei Avos. For Shabbos ben Pesach etc. For call Shabbos kites. And it's not enough to increase ourselves, we must influence those around us also to increase. Especially by spreading out the well springs, as it says, I will come when your well springs are spread out. Hatashuka, Hazach, Hagula, Itcha, Lo, Bakal, Yoim Shiva, and every day we're waiting for Mashiach to come, and we desire him. Kafisha, Aimim, Bakal, Yoim, Tefillah, we say every day in our davening. The Chazena, Inina, Bashuv, Chatzion, Rachamacha, you will return us to Israel and to Yerushalayim in your abundant mercy. Et Semech David Abadecha Mehera Atzmiach, and you will reestablish the throne of David HaMelech. Yiratzon may be God's will. That by taking on good resolutions, every Jew in all places and entering on in our service of Hashem, how much more so would we bring these into reality? And this immediately will bring forth the true and complete redemption by a righteous Redeemer. And just like when I took you out of Egypt, I will once again show you wonders. And the most important thing is it should happen right now. Hashem should bless us all with abundance, with shmona, with fatness, with revealed blessings in every capacity. And we should have the ultimate fatness, the ultimate rachava, the ultimate blessings with the true and complete redemption right now. God bless you, Moshiach now.